Hello, Magnus Turner MP at your service. I hope you'll forgive my dressed down Sunday appearance. It's been a very long week and I do like to get into my scruffs at the weekend. When I say it's been a difficult week, of course that could be true of any time you're watching this video. So let me be very clear. I'm recording this on the evening of Sunday the 18th of November 2018 after a very difficult week in Parliament in the development of Brexit, a week of historic significance and no small amount of concern and worry among you, the people. So I thought I would invite you to one of my homes for a cup of coffee and maybe a slice of pizza so I can reassure you that everything is going to be fine. There is nothing to worry about. The country will survive, whatever we end up calling it. Incidentally, when I say invite you into my home, that of course is not a literal invitation. Don't come. And nothing in the foregoing constitutes a contract to provide anybody with a cup of coffee. I thought we might make these more intimate Magnus moments a semi-regular treat for you, if that's something that you'd enjoy. And you can contribute yourselves, you know, by writing an email to me at this address. Do let me know what you'd like to feature in future programs. I'm sorry I'm a little out of sorts myself today. We had something of a late night last night. I got home and my wife said she really wanted to go out and I really didn't, so we ended up really spending hours arguing and threatening each other before deciding to compromise and just sit in the garden. It was very cold and we had no food or wine in, and it was too late by then to order any, but you know, the decision had been made, so we just sat out in the cold. The neighbours must have thought we were mad, but they did nothing to improve our situation, even when at midnight I banged on their fence and demanded a roasted chicken from them, or else we would simply move. Nothing. Bloody people. But let me go back to this week. Now I think where we stand is that the Leavers are very, very upset with Mrs May's proposed deal to leave the EU, because the deal proposed is not as good as being in the EU. The Remainers, on the other hand, are very upset with this deal because it gives too much power to Europe. Is that right?
But unfortunately, the future of the country and our relationship with Europe is at stake. This deal gives us no voice, no votes, no MEPs, no commissioner.
And the prominent Leave campaigner Nadine Dorries is absolutely right. There was nothing on that ballot slip to suggest that voting to leave the European Union would mean we couldn't continue to play a full and active role in the running of the European Union. This deal of Mrs May's is an absolute betrayal of whatever Nadine Dorries thought she was voting for. Now, fortunately, things do seem to have calmed down a little since then. Last I heard, and this could all change before this video reaches the internet, of course, but the last I heard, Mr Gove and Dr Fox had made public declarations of their loyalty to the Prime Minister. Now, I think she can survive that. And don't believe all this nonsense about late-night pizza plotting parties. That's absolute garbage. I've even heard on the grapevine that if it does come to a leadership election, Chris Grayling has volunteered to run Mrs May's campaign for her. So that would have her firmly back in office by 2025 or so, I'd imagine. But yes, Thursday was very difficult. It began with the very sad resignations of Shailesh Vara and Suella Braverman. And I was very, very sorry to see them go before I'd really had a chance to hear of them. But the day really started unfurling, didn't it, with the sad resignation, in my view, of Dominic Raab, the Brexit secretary. And I thought that was a terrible waste of talent. He's only just discovered that Dover is not in the Midlands, and I thought he had more to achieve. Now, my choice for his replacement would actually have been Karen Bradley, the current Northern Ireland Secretary. I think she's brought a tremendous honesty to government. You may have seen her interview back in the summer in which she said that before taking on that role, she really had no idea at all of the political divisions in Northern Ireland. But she does now. She's learnt on the job. She's now realised that implacable mortal enemies do not go to each other's jumble sales, and that's been tremendously helpful with her diary planning. Now, the job of Secretary of State for leaving the European Union actually went to a chap called Stephen Barclay, who sounds a decent enough fella. He's not been in Parliament long. He doesn't need to be involved in negotiations or anything that has got in the way of previous Secretaries of State for that role. His job seems to be mostly agreeing with the Prime Minister, and he's already proved he's very capable of doing that by accepting the job. Do you know, I think if I'd realised it was as simple as that, I might have put myself forward for it. And so many did on the day with their supportive tweets and interviews. And I think we shouldn't move on really without paying full tribute. Top marks, you know, go to Rory Stewart. You remember him, of course. He's the chap who said that if conditions in prisons don't improve by next summer, he will resign. So he really needs the job. And he put in a very good bid for it.
One of the advantages of this deal, to be honest, and the reason why 80% of the British public support this deal, is because what it does
80% of the British public support this deal? The draft deal? How on earth do we know that yet?
Okay, let me back on that. My sense is, sorry, let me get the language right on that. My sense is that if we have an opportunity to explain this, the vast majority of the British public would support this
Where
deal.
did 80% come from? I'm a bit confused.
Sorry, I'm producing a number to try to illustrate what I believe.
I spoke to him yesterday. He believes he's the Brexit Secretary now, so all's well that ends well. I must say, in the fervent atmosphere of Thursday, with this storm of resignations and accusations and all sorts of theatre going on, I did rather get whipped up with the atmosphere of the day, and at one point I offered my own resignation, and I think I'm the only person whose resignation was declined by the Prime Minister. Her office sent me a very charming note pointing out that actually I had nothing to resign from, apart from my seat, of course, and that won't be happening, and that I had not been a member of the Tory party since 1997. I've been in all of them over the years. I get very confused sometimes, and if I'm entirely honest with you, I've been on a bit of a bender since the referendum. I find Brexit all terribly confusing and worrying. No one really seems to know what they want apart from not that. So I just retreated into a 2.5-year haze of champagne, cognac and schnapps while they were still available. And when I'm drunk, anything can happen, believe me. I have a vague recollection of being a member of the SNP for a week. I don't know if that actually happened or whether that's an hallucination. But so far as I'm aware, I am still a very proud member of the Labour Party. And assuming that to be the case, Labour really are the only party you should consider voting for at the next election. We need a party with the unity, the clarity, the vision, the drive of the Labour Party. We need a party with the courageousness of a leader who is prepared to say absolutely nothing while the Tories implode. And the Tories hate that. They really do. I don't know if you saw Question Time last week, where the Conservative panellist was really quite slanderous towards Mr. Corbyn. And I will tell you this, I have been in that man's bathroom. He is not anti-ceramic. What we need is a leader who is prepared to say, there will be no second referendum, there's just nothing I can do. Now his shadow Brexit secretary actually says, well, maybe there is, but that's just a matter of nuance. I realise that's very confusing for you. So I would point you towards Mr. McDonnell, who in interview after interview has effectively said, I agree with both of them. And, you know, I wouldn't mind a second referendum. I didn't bother voting the first time. It's 5 minutes you'll never get back, isn't it? It doesn't really change any. I think I'll leave it there. Listen, do drop me an email to let me know how much this little talk has helped you. And if there is anything you'd like to see featured on a future edition, write to me at this email address. Oh, by the way, if you want to come up with a title for these little talks, that would be very helpful. Not Video McVideo Face though, please. I suggested that, my wife didn't like it. This is Magnus Turner MP. Cheerio. You're going to say cut. You're supposed to say cut. Turn the bloody thing off, you